I guess a lot of people talk about the pelvic floor. What are some of the misconceptions around that?
Lots of misconceptions around the pelvic floor. I think it happens a lot during pregnancy as well because women are so fearful of leaking while they're pregnant. Yeah. So a lot of the time during pregnancy you're told to turn your pelvic floor on over and over again, which can be good for a lot of people but actually can create problems in other cases. So we talk a lot about an overactive versus an underactive pelvic floor. So you have an underactive pelvic floor which is weaker, which can cause things like leakage when you're coughing or sneezing or laughing or running. But then you can also have a pelvic floor that is really overactive. So a pelvic floor that's really tight and always switched on, which we find is really common in people who do run quite a lot because they're always clenching their pelvic floor. Also really common in people who are really stressed or anxious or who, I guess, work out a lot. Yeah. So the thing with that is it can cause different things. It can cause pain with sex, pain with movement, just general pelvic pain. And so we want to make sure that if you do have a pelvic floor that is overactive, that you're not just training it to turn on all the time, okay? You actually do need to train it to relax as well, which you can do through lots of different breathing techniques and just training it to relax. Yeah. But again, that's where women's health physio is important because they can actually assess whether you are overactive or underactive or where you're.
Sorry, our last question is, a lot of people always talk about our stomach separation after pregnancy. Just give us a little bit of an insight into this as well.
Yeah, of course. So tummy separation is something I find women are really kind of conscious of and concerned about postnatally. And it makes sense. People are like, what's happened to my stomach? Yeah. So I guess the first thing to note about is we're talking about DRAM. So we're talking about diastasis rectus abdominis. So it's talking about your ab muscles here. And so I've never had a baby, so my ab muscles actually sit really close together. And there's connective tissue called your linea alba that sits in the middle and is really nice and tight. When you're pregnant, your body releases a hormone that actually allows that to move. Okay, it's really important. If you didn't move, then when you grew, you wouldn't be able to expand and your baby wouldn't be able to grow. Okay, so it's really important. It's completely normal. Every woman by the end of their pregnancy will experience some degree of separation. You have to, otherwise your baby can't grow. So I guess you don't want to demystify that. It's not a bad thing. It's actually a really positive thing. But postnatally, we can do different things, and again, it's really dependent on your own body and your degree of separation and the quality of it. The specific kind of core and ab work that we want to do to see if we can improve your stomach control postnatally. By 6 to 12 weeks, the actual degree of separation is kind of set and it's not going to change massively. But what can change is your control. And it's really important in runners that you have really good core control and lumbopelvic, control as well, because if you don't, that's when you're going to have pain and problem when you're running.
Yeah, and I think it's important that, it is something that's going to happen. So try not to worry too much about it, and you can work on controlling it and strengthening it as well. So
absolutely.
Cool. Thanks, Maddie.